right, welcome to the first ever episode of the Dadger, where everything sports, parenthood, and Wisconsin pride all blur together. Today, our guest is father of two, former Wisconsin Badger, all around great guy. And the nickname I'm coming up on the fly here, the Beast from Madison East, Marquis Mason. Thanks for coming on, Marquis.
I haven't heard that one in a while. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I was gonna say that had to have come up. That had to have been a nickname in high school.
Yeah, it was one of them. Most, everyone kind of calls me White Keys, but there's one is it Jim from ESPN? I think he might have crowned me that. I'm not sure. I've heard it though. It's not out of the realm for me.
All right. Well, talking about Madison East days, do you want to jump into basketball or football first? Because you're a hell of an athlete in both.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of go back a little bit. So, um, my favorite sport's always been football. Randy Moss was kind of the guy that I loved growing up. I remember, God, I sent him a letter in like '96, and he sent me back a team photo. Obviously not signed, but whatever. So kind of growing up, yeah, it's crazy. So kind of growing up, I actually never played receiver because I was too heavy. So not sure how they do it up where you're at, but down here there's a weight limit. So I was always obviously too heavy. So I played D line and O line from fifth to eighth grade. Eighth grade, they called me up to play receiver. Play receiver, absolutely awful. um, yeah, just didn't have any concept of it. And then
had those lineman hands.
Yeah, no, very much so, right? So you get to high school, and obviously there's no weight limit, so I get super excited. Um, but during that time, God, I want to say seventh grade, I got offered my first like unofficial scholarship for basketball. So
Jeez.
um, yeah, and I was scared, So I didn't play. I played my freshman year, didn't play my sophomore year. Um, my quarterback, Drew McAdams, he actually was hounding me for an entire year to come play football. You'll love it, blah, blah, blah. I loved it. And then from that point forward, that's how Wisconsin kind of came in the picture.
Yeah. So when did you hit your growth spurt? Because it sounds like you were pretty big in like sixth and seventh grade too.
Yeah, I had my growth spurt probably in fourth grade.
Holy.
Yeah, I was so it was me and this other kid, the tallest two kids in the school. I think by the end of fifth grade, I was 5'10", 5'11", and by seventh grade, I was like 6'3", and then haven't grown since. So
I don't know. They got you listed at 6'5" on all the
oh,
websites I'm seeing.
my doctor told me that I was supposed to be 6'7". I don't know what happened, but I was supposed to be 6'7". I have a 7'3" wingspan, and I'm all legs and arms. So
I was gonna say, I remember on that spring break that we went to together that we were about the same height, and we did that stupid thing where you stand like this in front of each other,
yeah,
and I was like this far away from you. I'm like 6'4" and
yeah,
normal wingspan, and you were just, I was like,
right. No,
dang.
yeah, 7'3" wingspan, which is insane when you think about, typically your wingspan is about how tall you are. So either I was supposed to be 6'7", or I was supposed to be 6'1", or 7'3", who knows? But
Yeah. So going off that makes sense. Why I don't know if these records are still current, but you are were at one point the all-time leading rebounder for East and points. Correct? Points scored.
yes, yep, it's still going. Looking back at it now, just and kind of look at high school now and how kids are scoring just at will. It doesn't seem like that much. Um, but I take pride in it just because it was probably in the gravy area of the Big Eight, where I think we were pumping out D1 athletes, like 4 to 5 of them
Yeah.
each year.
there's a article I was reading, the best Madison athletes, and there were some, I mean, just some crazy guys on there. Obviously, Wes Matthews was on there.
Mhm.
Some NBA players were on there. As top 60, you made the list, so that's got to feel pretty good.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be on there, honestly. Like I'm just grateful to be. I'm not mentioned much, but I'm grateful to be up there.
So, you said football was your big passion here. Um, in one of the ESPN articles I read, uh, it talked about how maybe you were thinking about being a dual sport athlete at Wisconsin, and maybe trying to walk on the basketball team as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think Bielema might have said he would talk to Bo Ryan's camp and see if there was something he could do there.
Mm.
At least that's what the article said. So I'm just curious, was that like a pitch that Bielema had for you? Like, hey, if you come to Wisconsin, maybe I can get you, maybe I can pull some strings and get you on the basketball court.
Yeah. So that there's a. It's always funny, right? I have two sides of that story. So um, the side that you read, which is yeah, he said he'll talk to Bo Ryan because I remember the exact conversation we had. It was a spring game of '09. That's when he offered me the scholarship. And in that meeting, amongst every other thing, and what at the time he thought I could possibly be for Wisconsin, he did say, "Hey, I'll talk to Bo Ryan about you playing basketball." So obviously, when I hear that, I'm bright eyed, bushy tailed. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, like, like,
yeah,
like I've made it, right? 100% made it. So like that was kind of the seal the deal moment for me. There's not much more you could possibly ask for. Um, and at that time, I'm thinking, playing for two great basketball or two great programs within the same school would be incredible. So yeah, he sold me a dream for sure.
yeah. I mean,
But
especially a college as prestigious as Wisconsin had been in those both those sports, honestly.
yeah, and I quickly realized. I mean, so for perspective, I graduated I think June 16th, and by June 18th, I moved to the region.
Okay.
So yes, I had all of about, I don't know, a day and a half to be like a regular high school kid, and then from that point forward, it was just kind of adulthood. And I quickly realized right around summer workouts and then fall camp, which is just absolute hell. If you've never experienced it, obviously it'll never be the same. They don't do what they did back then, but um, I quickly realized I'm like, oh yeah, I have no time to even think about basketball. I remember, I think 9 or 10 of us went to the surf, played basketball, and within 30 minutes, or I think the next day actually, they called us in and said, "Don't, you shouldn't be there. Don't do that." So I quickly realized that he sold me a dream.
Yeah.
But I mean, the consolation was okay. I'll just play football, which sounds kind of arrogant, but um, that's what I was there for.
Yeah. So when you were making that decision to go to UW, I know I saw online like Purdue in Ohio were some of the schools looking at you. Was it always just like, if it's not somewhere in Wisconsin, I'm not going, or was there somebody who helped talk you through and make those tough decisions with you?
So it was a multitude of things. So I had a coach who ended up kind of being a father figure to me as I went through life. Uh, he was saying, "Hey, you're already kind of established in the city. You'll be a hometown hero, and think about everything that you'll be for the kids, for the community if you stay here." Um, and then a big part of that too was I was a mama's boy, so um, yeah, I was like, oh, my mom will be here, everything will be fine, everything great. Didn't really understand what just the weight that carried being a hometown guy at the time. And I was like, oh, it'll be a great idea. I love it. Everything will be great. Obviously hindsight, I wish I would have got out of here, come back. But, I wasn't really, to be perfectly honest with you, I was in survival mode. I'm sure we're probably gonna go into it, but I chose football because it was the fastest way to $1 million. And I know a lot of people won't say that to you or say that, but I grew up in survival mode. And so I knew that in order for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish, put my family in the best situation possible, football was was the fastest route to that. Basketball, obviously, I probably could have done well. Probably went overseas and had a great career. I don't know. Let's say, um, people always tell me, "Oh, you're like the Zion before Zion," um, but I couldn't dribble, couldn't shoot, and during my era, the mid range was like a big thing, right? The pull up
Yeah.
mid range was
Yeah.
like, not really 3 point. No one really cares about 3 point at the time. It was pull up mid range and then dunking. I had the dunking. That wasn't an issue. I had the tenacity, so that wasn't an issue. I just never shot primarily because I felt like I never had to because I always kept basketball very simple. Um, put the hole in the basket or put the ball in the basket. That's
Yeah.
kind of always been my mentality, right? Like I don't really care how you do it. Everyone talks about um, all these different ways of doing it, but I was averaging the same, if not right around the same as some of the best basketball players in the conference at the time. So it was really hard to convince me that I needed to develop all this other stuff when I was doing pretty much anything I wanted to.
Right. That being said, we'll talk a little bit about scoring. There have been a ton of kids this year, and kind of in the recent last 5 to 10 years, of in-state kids in high school that can score, have played, are going to big D1 programs. Do you think, in your opinion, that the Badgers need to go more to in-state players? They need to recruit heavier in-state because it feels like we don't ever get any. I mean, we got Johnny Davis. I think was the last one we got.
Yeah. Um, God, I'm trying to think how I want to say this. I'm going to say it. Wisconsin has a terrible stain, basketball wise, and not to say that we're not good, but we're slow. We control the game. We control the pace. We're predicated on defense and shooting. Um, we're not really known for getting guys to the league, right? Um, as a kid, well, no, let's just put Tyler Hero, right? Great kid, could score. You know, I remember him and Showalter got in an argument on Twitter, and I understood, both perspectives. But Tyler Hero said, "Hey, if I would have played at Wisconsin, I'd still be at Wisconsin right now."
Yep.
So the mentality is when you play at Wisconsin, you're a 4 year, you have a 4 year career. You're not, you know, um, you're not league bound after one, and it's it's just like football as well. Like Wisconsin fans want they want the athletes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm jump everywhere, but Russell Wilson, I think, in my opinion, was like the best worst thing to ever come to Wisconsin. Right? like, but
Yeah.
like as Wisconsin fans, because you can see how one person, Johnny Davis, you can see how one person changes the entire trajectory of a program. But like we're just not known for getting those type of players. So like it's so out of the norm. And yeah, we can sit there and recruit in-state players, but the mentality of going to Wisconsin is um, it's just it's not NBA ready, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, Sam Decker was Tyler Hero,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll switch it up a little bit here. Go back to football. So you were recruited by Bielema. Christ was the offensive coordinator, I believe, right at that time.
Hmm. Yep.
So you might be a little bit biased here, but in your opinion, uh, were you bummed to see either one of those leave Wisconsin? And can you give me some thoughts on Fickle's first couple seasons?
So I was good on Bielema until he tweeted about me, or he made a comment about me.
Okay, I didn't know.
Um,
Well, what do we got going on here?
yeah, yeah, I mean, like, shoot, so backstory. I won 3 games, 3 or 4 games, in 2 years in high school. Right. So we come from and it's not a shot at my high school by any means, but we come from a very basic, dumbed down version of football. Right. So we, the number tree 1 through 9, and
Yep.
then the armband says, right stack 2-5-2. So I know I'm the X receiver. I'm running the 2 route, which is the slant. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to Wisconsin, and it's like, star and port was like left and right, or I'm not even sure which one was left or right, but star and port was like how you know what side of the ball, or whether it was left or right. And then there's like 12 names, right? And out of those 12 names, I'm responsible for 4 of them. Now, you're taking a kid who's played 2 years of football, comes from a route tree, um, and then you're asking me to remember close to 100 plays, because we install, fall camp at the time was 20 plays a day for
Yeah.
like the first week. And then we just refine those until they figured out which ones work best. So I'm having to memorize, maybe it's only 15 names, 15 things, but it's within a concept of 100 different plays, let's say, give or take. Right. So I just didn't get it. And so he said the last thing he said before he left, and we can get into how he left because it was crazy. But um, last thing he said was, Marquis Mason isn't ready for any level of football at all. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I don't
See ya.
really care for you. Yeah, I was like, whatever. And then obviously how he left was we had a meeting. Shoot, we had a meeting. Oh, sorry, that's my work
All right, again.
email thing. There you go. So we had a so he we had like a really like weird meeting where he said, "Hey, the media is talking to you about money, and all that stuff, and me switching schools. Don't worry about that. I'm not going anywhere." Um, and so we were all like, "All right," like that was weird. And then I remember we had a yeah, because I was like, "That's weird." And I remember we
Right.
had like an off day. Yeah, we had a day where like we were supposed to have practice, but we didn't have practice. So like, I got done with classes at like 1, because we're supposed to be done by like 12:30, 1 o'clock every day. Right. So got my treatment, and all that stuff. And then we had an emergency team meeting. And I remember I took a nap, woke up to a bunch of texts like, "Hey, is Bielema really leaving?" And I'm like, what is, I'd like, it's waking me up out of my sleep. So we have a team meeting, and then he says he's gone, he's leaving. And then 10 to 12 players walked out. I shook his hand. I was like, all right, whatever. Like, thanks for getting me here. But, so that was how the whole thing is. So, yeah, glad he left. But Fickle, how can I say this? How can I say this? I don't think Fickle's a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think that I think that just like he talked about kids coming in and living off the tradition of Wisconsin, I think he did that too, right? And he thought that it was just going to be a walk in the park. Um, I also think that he thought he had better pull just in terms of recruiting, um, and it just wasn't the case. I mean, year in and year out, I mean, you can see that again, we need someone. We need a dual threat quarterback. Like, and I've been saying this for a while. I'm like, the we are in the dual. We're still in the quarterback era, dual threat quarterback era, right?
Yep.
Again, I'm gonna go refer back to Russell Wilson and Monty and James and Melvin. You know, that team was so successful because the defense had to play you straight up.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't put eight in the box. We couldn't put 8 or 9 in the box and then force you to throw it. Like, no, everyone was a threat. Okay, cool. We put 8 in the box. Now Russell can run, and then we can get receivers open. Okay, now we're gonna put a spy on Russell. Okay, now the receivers got 1-on-1, or we can run it. Right? There's just nothing you can do. You just gotta hope that you stop them. That's not the case. And then I think he's running into the same thing that uh, just Wisconsin's always run into. It's like if you're outside of a running back, a lineman, a linebacker, and well, used to be DBs, but I don't know if it's DBs anymore. Um, like, what makes you want to come to Wisconsin, right?
Right.
I love the I love the school because I know that we're always one position away. But do you want to shoulder that? And if you transfer, do you want to be compared? Because the minute they put dual threat on tag onto you, I mean, you're instantly compared to Russell Wilson, and that's just like an impossible
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
to be compared to.
Yeah. And I mean, to that same point, it feels like any high grade quarterback we get, we put the same amount of exact same pressure on every single one of them. And they all turn out to be the Spider-Man meme where it's everybody pointing at the other guy. It's like they're all the same quarterback.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like they're all they're all like pocket quarterbacks. Like we're just in an age where dual threat quarterbacks is how you win the game.
So, might be another dumb question here, but with had NIL been around when you were playing or being recruited, I should say, do you think that would have affected your decision at all?
Yeah, but it also would have made things easier. Excuse me. So I always tell people all the time, Gary was like the best coach I've ever had, right? Like he made football fun again. He wasn't out there trying to, make us run for 3 to 4 hours a day, do all this stuff. Nope. It's, we would have hour and a half, 2 hour practices and be done. Um, so a lot of stress was lifted. NIL, and this is the thing I talk to people about all the time is NIL is only like a problem because kids are demanding what they're worth, right? Um, had I had NIL back then, I think life would have been so much easier. I mean, the main reason why I wanted to go be a professional was because of the money. Okay, hey, if I'm making, because back in 2011, or 2010, well, 2010 to 2015, you know, $75,000 a year, you could pretty much do anything you wanted to do. There
Yeah.
wasn't anything you couldn't afford, right? Um, so that
Eh,
would help me tremendously, just because I know that, you know, I have all my necessities. Well, it would have been, I would have lived better. I was actually living, we were actually, a lot of people were living terrible downtown on scholarship. But we would have lived more comfortable, and we actually would have been able to like do more for our families.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe it would have made your decision going to Wisconsin easier. You probably would have got a ton of local businesses giving you NIL money, honestly, for how big your name was.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the thick of it here. 2011 redshirt freshman season, um,
hmm
tear your ACL. How did
hmm
that happen? Um, and had you been expecting to see some substantial minutes in 2011?
No, so 2011, so the 2010, 2011 season. No, I already at that point I already committed to redshirting. Um, so my ACL actually tore. I wish I had the video because it's funny looking back at hindsight now. So I was running a speed dig, which is like 16 yard. God, it's kind of like an over route, but it's you cut it anyway. Speed dig. Um,
For those of you
and
who don't know, look
so
it up.
yeah, yeah. So I ran it and I planted and I cut, and then my knee buckled. And then I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then they're like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. My knee just like buckled. I don't really know what it did. So, they did all the tests, all the ACL tests, everything checked out. So then I did it. So then I ran it. I was like, oh, that's weird. So then I did something else. And then I ended up running the speed dig again. And then it buckled again. So then I'm like, all right. I was like, I'm going to come out before something really, really like bad happens. And then so they heard clicking. And then they were like, oh, it sounds like your meniscus. I'm like, oh shit, like meniscus, right? At the time, I'm like, oh, that's devastating. Never had surgery. Never been injured. And then so 2 days. So then that night, like idiot, we all went out. But I couldn't like walk up an incline. So I was like, oh man. I was like, is it really this bad? And then got X-rays that day. X-rays came back Sunday, and then he was like, "Yeah, so you're supposed to have a ligament that does like this. It's not there, so you tore your ACL." So it didn't really hit me until I had surgery, and then the first the day after surgery, I couldn't lift my leg, so I was staring at my leg and I couldn't lift it, and that's when it hit me. Um, but in terms of playing that year, absolutely not. They told me it would be a long recovery. And, it was a decision that, I had to make, and obviously at that time I'm like, man, I should just play basketball. It just never would have happened, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. Later I found out that it was the turf, and that's why they've changed the turf 4 times in the past like 10 years because it was the turf. Obviously, still not an excuse, but yeah, yeah. So I mean, it buckled. It was really nothing. It wasn't like I got hit or anything. It was a non-contact injury.
Yeah, so that first time, what did rehab look like for you? Just because since then they've come quite a long way in how quickly they can, maybe not college athletes, but professionals, they can, get them on the field a lot quicker than they could, 14 years ago. And then was
Mhm.
your mentality to keep staying positive, just like, you know, this is my freshman year. I'll do all this rehab, get back, and be out on the field again eventually.
Yeah. So my rehab was just, I mean, mentally it's devastating, right? Like I remember called my family. I was like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry I failed you." And they're like, "Oh no, you didn't fail us." And I'm like, "Yeah, hey, I don't know how ACL is going to go because once you tear one, the likelihood of tearing the other one is like 60 or 70%, just
Yep.
because you're overcompensating nonstop." So rehab was rehab was difficult just because I'm like, and even to this day, like I'm just a competitor, right? So like I'm looking at people doing stuff. Um, and like I know I just can't do it, right? They say at like 12 weeks, 12 16 weeks, that's when people usually re-tear it because your body's converting that ligament into a new ligament or whatever, into the ligament that your body's going to use for ACL. So I was worried about that. So the mentality of just, I tell people all the time I would much rather broke a leg because breaking a bone is easier to come back to than ACL. I mean, I had to learn how to walk again, just basic stuff, going upstairs, um, shoot, even getting in cars, and like an idiot, I was driving a moped. So well, I was on a moped with crutches.
Classic college kid
Um,
move right there.
yeah, just complete like I have like the Superman mentality, right? So like I'm like, oh no, it's what is it like 0.3 of a mile, from Camp Randall to where my dorm was and my apartment was. So I was like, that's fine. But yeah, it was it breaks you, and I think that anyone that has gone through will kind of say the same thing. It's just something that no matter what you do, all the muscle that you have in your leg is gone, and then you just have to build it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So walk me through the following year, because you rehab, get back on the field, correct, and then the other
Yeah.
knee, and then the other knee gave out.
Yeah. So I tear my ACL, and then that's the year Russell comes. Um, so I'm pretty much Russell's like warm up thrower, right? So I recovered in about 8 months. Both my ACL tears were a week before spring ball. So I played in one of four spring balls, or spring games. Sorry, not spring balls.
Yeah. Yep.
Spring games. So yeah, I was basically that year, 2011, 2012 season. We went to Rose Bowl. Everything was fine. Oh, not fine. We should have won, but we lost. Um, yeah. Uh, and then I ended up being Russell's like throwing partner for that year. So then everything went good. And then that year I was fully recovered. Everything was fine. Ended up getting a new coach. That's when Bielema left. So then Gary came in.
Yep.
Got a new receiver coach. Uh, and that's when I realized, and again, a lot of people aren't going to say this either. I just wasn't a good practice player. At that point, I got the plays. Plays weren't an issue for me. I was able to understand the plays, or they'll raffle off a play, and I know that I have to listen to 4 words. That's the only thing I'm listening to. I don't really care about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was effort and practice. Um, because I was like, it wasn't that I wasn't catching the ball. It wasn't that I wasn't running. Or it was, sometimes it was because I was running, but it was just effort and practice. They said that your effort and practice translates into the game. And in my head, I'm like, I'm never gonna like jog in the game, right? But
Yeah.
that's not what Wisconsin is, right? Like, no, the product you put out on the field starts in practice. So I didn't play that year, and then the next year, what was it, 2013? Um, I just uh, have you ever seen Jordy Nelson's injury where he just stepped like to the
Mm-hmm.
left?
Yep.
That's exactly what I did. So like I just imagine, God, imagine being in a staggered stance, and then your front leg, you just move it to the left or
Yep.
move it to the right, and then it tore, and then I buckled, and then so then took an X-ray. They said it's partially torn, and they was like, you have two options. You could leave it alone, let it recover, and then you could be perfectly fine because of scar tissue, or it could just rip later on in life a little while. And I was like, all right, well, there's like, you got some meniscus in there, so we have to go in there anyway. And then they went in there and said, yeah, it was bad. So they cut it. And then that was a recovery. And then at that point, it was a situation where it was like, you should be done because if you do it again, you're going to need a knee replacement. Um, so, 2 months, because it was, I think it was, shoot, we were Capital Bowl one or Capital One Bowl that year, my last
Okay.
year.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I was in practice a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. I was like, yep, as long as they pay for the rest of my school, like I'm good. There's nothing, I can't prevent injuries. There's nothing I can do on that side. So that's when I said I'm done. Finished school, and then that was it.
Was there someone you went to? Because I haven't had an injury that bad, but I've thrown out my back before, and somebody. I mean, I'm assuming you're way more competitive than I am, but for someone who played sports at a competitive level and works out every day, it's frustrating not being able to work out, or like for you get on the field. Um, so I'm sure that weighed on you like two times in a row over the course of what, 3 years.
Hmm.
So there had to have been somebody that you had like went to like kind of ground you and be like, yo, it's gonna be okay here.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I go back to my coach that's kind of just been a father figure to me. And he was like, all right. So, like, he broke it down. He's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I think that if I go um, to the combine, and not the combine everyone gets invited to, there's another one, pay 40 or $50, something like that. I was like, I think I can make a practice roster. Right. I was like, I think I'm fully recovered. I feel great. My knees feel great. Like I've been, working out. I've been cutting and been doing all this stuff. Feel great. So I was training actually for the combine, for the invitational. Let's call it the invitation. So it's a different, separation. So I was training for the invitational, and then I don't know, like a week or two before, um, I was set to go. I was just like, yeah, this isn't. I was like, what are you doing? Because I'm like you're obviously, yeah. I'm 22, and I'm like, I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm like, again, it could be a situation where I'm rolling the dice, and it could be really good or it can be really bad. And I was just like, what's more important? Because at that time, it's ego, it's legacy, it's I'm a hometown kid. Did not play at all. You know, uh, certain times feel like a failure because of that. And I'm like, you don't need to, like, it's just a bad idea if you do this. If you do it again, you're going to get a knee replacement at like 25. And it was like, I plan on having kids at some point. And I was just like, I just want to be mobile with my kids. So that's when I was like, you know what? My trainer was pissed because he was like, you don't move like someone who's had ACL like repairs. And so he was like, I think you're fine. And I'm like, yeah, but no. And it was hard,
Yeah,
right? It was hard. So like
yeah,
I'm there, I think it was in Chicago or North Carolina, one of the two. Like I was like, I'm there. Like he was like, you got it. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm good.
yeah. And I mean, with that weighing in that heavily in the back of your mind, like the odds you perform to your best ability are probably not great. But
Yeah. And I mean, it's I'm damaged goods. And like, that's not something that you should say, but like let's just be honest here. Like, I could either have a really great career or it could happen again. Right. And like teams have to weigh that when they're signing you. So
yeah, so you talked about your coach being a father figure to you. When you made the decision to step away, did you ever like think about a going to the coaching staff at Wisconsin and asking if you could stay on as part of like some sort of coaching capacity, I guess?
no, honestly, I mean, it was a very tumultuous like 4.5 years, 4.5 years there. Um, it's obviously all covered because we went to three Rose Bowls, won three Big Ten championships, um, or well, won four technically. Well, yeah, won four. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Uh,
it's covered up by winning. But for me, and I think I speak for the receiver room during those 4 years. I mean, it was a lot going on. Three head coaches in 4 years, three or four different position coaches, um, three new offenses. Uh, I was just, then obviously Chris came back and I was like, shoot, I should have known, I would have stayed.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to step away from it. I mean, like, I love Wisconsin. We'll never not love Wisconsin, but I just knew that when I was done, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'll support from afar.
We talked a little bit about you being competitive. You didn't stay away from sports that long. It doesn't seem
No.
like. I saw saw some or reading some articles. You were um, out of college. I don't know if you were fresh out of college, but you joined the Ultimate Frisbee League.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so in the article I read, it said you had been playing Ultimate Frisbee when you were in seventh grade. How did that like? How did you get into playing Ultimate Frisbee in seventh grade? I don't think I knew what
All
Ultimate
right.
Frisbee was in seventh grade.
Yeah, no. They when I joined the league, it was like a big deal because I was like a high profile athlete that
Yeah.
joined Frisbee. So yes, I played in seventh grade, but it wasn't that ultimate frisbee. Ultimate frisbee, where like in gym class where you throw the frisbee, you have to
Okay.
stop, or you have like 3 steps. That was the ultimate frisbee I was used to. I actually started playing in 2015. 2015, right after I graduated. I started playing. I started working at the community center I grew up at. And then, we have AmeriCorps there. So that was something they did. They were like, hey, you're fast. You should play Ultimate Frisbee. And I'm like, I don't know how to throw a Frisbee, but I'll go get it if you throw it. And they're like, yo, that's all you need to do. We'll figure the rest out later. So then that's where like my passion for Ultimate Frisbee came from. So then played in the summer for 3 years, and then I joined, and then the Radicals had a crazy tryout. It was like 12 to like 2 in the morning. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, just crazy. And then I made it, and then it was just adapting to an entirely different culture. Um, Intensity level. So I'm very intense, especially like when I play. I had to learn how to tone that down a little bit. Um, the frisbee community is a lot different
I was gonna say
than
in the article I
yeah.
read, you were pretty humble in your quotes when you're talking about it, but I'm like watching highlight clips of you just mossing people left and right. So like was the strategy there like Marquis just run and we're just gonna loft it up and these guys can't guard you? Like you're big
No,
compared to
actually,
those guys.
no. I think actually I got targeted a lot because of who I am and what I brought. Um, Everything I said in those articles are correct. I mean, like ultimate frisbee is by far like the hardest sport that I've played personally. Just because there's not really a rest, right? Like
Yeah.
it's football and soccer put together. Um, and it's very easy to get exposed. I'll send you a picture of me. This guy's like 5'6" and skied over me and took the frisbee. Um, but no, I mean, the first year was a lot of reading the disc. So like football, you know that if you throw it left to the left hash, it's going to go to the left hash, right? No matter what. Maybe the wind will blow it
Mm-hmm.
a little bit out the way, but like you can see that. The frisbee is completely different. Um, you got to be able to read the disc, and you got to look at the angle in which it's coming down, um, and then you also got to be able to throw it. So it was a whole new realm for me because I'm a quarterback and receiver at the same time, and I'm a DB, right? So then uh, it was just a learning curve. The second year is actually when I started flourishing, and then I got my ankle rolled up, and then I was like, yeah, this is terrible. Um,
I saw that.
but the second year,
I might put that clip in here. I'm actually gonna probably put the clips in of you mossing people too, but that one that you're talking about, you like dove and rolled out of the corner of the end zone or I don't know what their
yeah,
term is for it, but that's the
mhm,
one
I
you
call it,
ended up messing your ankle up, right?
yeah, yeah. That year is when I understood just the general concept, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be myself, and if there's an issue, then there's going to be an issue. Um, Not like a bad issue, but like I toned myself down. I toned my intensity down. I remember I was like, "Oh, let's fucking go," and they was like, "Yeah, you can't cuss." And I was like, "Oh, you can't like." I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I was like, "All right." So I think the first time I scored, I had sleeves on. think that might be like one of the first clips I think there's out there. But yeah, I was like cussing, and he's like, yo, Keith, you can't cuss. You gotta relax. And I'm like, I scored. Like, like how am
Let
I?
me be
How are you
me.
not excited? Yeah. So then I was like, you know what? The second year, I was like, you know what? I was gonna be me. And then that's when I was like, I don't really care about anything else. I just want to win. So like whatever I got to do to win, whether it's on me on the sideline or whatever, I don't care. I just want to win.
I think more than anything, the impressive part is as we see the Radicals going for the shot downfield, and
So yeah, that's kind of how I got into that. And then I stopped, and so now I just do MUFA, which is like the Madison's Ultimate Frisbee Association, and that's every summer here in Madison.
And then on top of that, you said they might not be coming back this year, but you had been playing for a basketball team in Madison called the Madison Mavericks.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess you've been playing Ultimate Frisbee. I was going to say, did you have to train for that? Because I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, and I just went in this last winter to scrimmage my brother's basketball team, and we did like 10 minutes of half court stuff, and I was dead. I was gassed. So like,
Yeah. So
I'm not in basketball shape anymore.
no, and I never was either. I will tell you this. Yeah, there's no way to get in shape for either sport. I'm just for me, I'm like, okay, like in my head, so me and Steph Curry are the same height, right? So if I was in the league, I would be a point guard. In this league, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I took my big ass down to the box, and then that's where I played. I was like, whatever, I'm probably stronger than everybody down here. I'll just so that's where I played. And then when it came to Ultimate Frisbee, that's kind of where I got my cardio from because our team in particular, we basically throw bombs and then make the other team play us, right? So, and it's a co-ed team, so and we have a bunch of athletic girls, so whether it's me throwing it or someone else throwing it, we throw bombs and then let our players go and get it. So that's no matter what, it doesn't matter. In 3 weeks, you'll be in great shape playing Frisbee just because we play twice a week and it's literally all running. So I'm never worried about not being in shape because whatever I'm not, Frisbee's going to force me to do.
Run.
Yeah, yeah.
Playing all these other sports, being competitive, when you're out there, does it ever cross your mind, like in the back of your mind, just worrying about re-injuring yourself?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So, God, I want to say there's a stretch, 2016 to 2019, where I just didn't do anything. I just, you know, sat around, and then when Frisbee came in the summer, I just started playing. Pulled my hammy all 3 of those years, and then one of those years I pulled my hammy, and um, God, what did I do to my quad? I did something to my quad. I have a giant lump in my quad now. So I was like, you know what? I need to start doing something, right? I need to start doing it. I don't really care what it is. I need to start doing something because what's happening is what is the word I'm looking for? Creating so much torque in my legs that it's not matching up with like the strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm gonna get hurt to the point where like I won't be able to walk or anything if I don't start doing things. So now I just do like some band work, workouts downtown or down in my basement now, and then that prepares me for pretty much everything now. So I will never sit around and just do nothing. And then obviously with kids now, it's just not something that's really an option for me to sit around anymore.
So how many when you got out of college, how many semi-pro teams reached out to you over the years to play? And I'll raise my hand. I was one of those guys. I know I messaged you and asked you to play for us.
Yeah, I would say probably five, and every year it happens. And like, just come play the games. I'm like, I'm not. I was like, I can't. I was like, there's no. I don't need the. I don't need to like. For me, I'm like, I don't need to live out those days anymore, and it's like not really an
Yeah.
incentive for me to do it. Like when I, oh, they said like, oh, in college it was the same thing. I'm like, yeah, but I got a degree out of it.
Right.
I got free education. It's a little bit different, and I had everything taken care of. And I was like, I'm also accustomed to a lot of things that you guys don't provide, and I'm like, I just won't do it because if I get hurt, what's going to happen? And it's
Right.
just no. So like, I love the game, but not enough to do that. And I just know, again, men and egos. Someone finds out I'm playing, they're going to chop the tree down. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
So
I'm okay.
I don't blame you. I get those. I still get those messages from some of the guys that played on my team. I'm like, you guys are nuts for still playing. You guys are in your 30s. You guys are gonna get hurt.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
In
good.
my 20s, I was like, it's all right being hurt on Saturday and Sunday, but if I did that now, I'd be hurt until the next week. So
No, your injuries are actually injuries, and you can't just like recover.
right.
Yeah,
So, uh, what was your wife in sports?
yeah. So she was, God, yeah, she was like the all time. I want to say all time leading scorer up until recently, for Sauk Prairie. And then she went to Edgewood, hooped there for a little bit, and then she actually tore her ACL. Um, yeah, so we're the ACL family.
ACL stick together.
Um, yeah, yeah. So she tore her ACL, and then she stopped playing. But yeah, no, she's a full blown hooper. And then she coached. She went back and coached for a little bit before she gave up coaching when we had our son.
All right, so that ties perfectly into my next question. You guys got all this talent that you have pooled together and put in your children. Hopefully, they're
Mhm.
interested in sports.
Yeah, they both are.
Okay.
We've just been really cognizant of not trying. Like we want my son to play basketball. We want our daughter to play basketball as well. I think she's probably going to be like a track star because she loves just sprint. But my son is really athletic, and I can see it uh, because yeah, he's a kinetic or what is the word I'm looking for? Not kinesthetic, I think it is. Anyway, he's a doer, right? So like once he learns how to do it, he's good at it and he gets it like right away. So we put him in all these sports, and he's just like, obviously he's like 4'3" right now, and he just turned 5. Um,
Jeez.
so he towers, yeah. So he towers over everybody, and then he's just more athletic, and so I can see it. So, um, we can see it, and so we always talk about how we get him into it. He didn't like basketball at first because it was hard. It was the first sport where he just couldn't get it right away, but now he loves it. So we're gently pushing him into it, but I'm just going to support him whatever he decides to do. I don't care what it is, but when he decides, then I have to learn how to play it so that I can beat him so I can.
Okay, well that perfect. That was my next question. Was were you were you guys gonna like kind of let your kids explore different sports and then kind of nudge them like, I don't know, I
Yeah.
think you'd be pretty good at basketball.
Yeah. So that was big for me. My wife, she was into a bunch. I think she played soccer, basketball, and something else in high school. I played football and basketball. I wanted to play soccer and I wanted to play baseball growing up, but they told me I was too big to play, which at the time I'm like, how am I too big to play soccer and baseball? But whatever. Um, so yeah, no, I want him to explore every sport that possibly can. And then again, always know that if basketball is on the table, then we're gonna push that button.
I mean, I guess I might know the answer to it more so from your wife than you, but since she's already been a coach, you think you guys will try to coach their teams at some point?
Yeah, that's my dream. Now the issue that I have is because like I'm looking at him like he's me. I'm like, oh, you can do this, and I got to remember sometimes he's 5 and he has a 5-year-old brain. And he probably doesn't know how to do it. So I think I will be I'll probably be like the fundamental guy, just like hammering basics, right, and mastering basics, and then
You're going to be the
my
Bo
wife.
Ryan of little kids basketball.
Yeah, then my wife can fill in the gaps. But no, I that is kind of my dream, is to coach him. Uh, up until I don't want to be like a LeVar Ball by any means, but coach him up until I feel that I can pass him to someone that isn't looking for like a monetary gain, but just cares about kids and developing them the right way.
Yep. So speaking of developing youth, I mean, prior to you having kids, um, you did a lot of work with setting up youth programs with Kennedy Heights Community Center. Do you think all that work with kids prior to having kids kind of prepared you better for having children, or was it like totally different when it's your own kids?
Totally different, just because, and you'll enjoy this too. But I can always give those kids back, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
That's
mean?
how I felt with my
Like I can
nieces and
always,
nephews. It's like,
yeah, it's like, oh, I love you guys, but I can always give you guys back. But no, with the kids at Kennedy Heights, and I worked at Vera Court for a little bit as well. Um, what I really try to focus on is growing up. We just didn't have good examples. All the high profile athletes like never came back. People that ended up being successful from the neighborhood just never came back. Um, so my thing was, okay, cool. If I'm, at bare minimum, hey guys, you're looking at a plan B, right? Like, yeah, my aspirations was become a professional basketball player, professional or football player. That didn't work out. Hey, I still got my degree, and then now I'm actually utilizing it, and now you can see. So, because kids, even at that age, it's like a show me thing. You got to show
mm-hmm.
me, like, oh yeah, because big things. Oh well, you didn't play. I'm like, yeah, but I still made it. And you got to think about how many high school seniors there are in the country, and I was one of, I don't know, 12 that they chose. So I always wanted to be like, and this has kind of just been me forever, but I never just wanted to be known as an athlete, because that is a very, and I'm going through it right. I'm going through it. I'm coming out of it, but I'm still going through it right now. That is a very tough road uh, to navigate, just because all the stereotypes that happen with athletes, especially with football players. Um, so I just never wanted to be known as just an athlete. I wanted to be known for more. So that's basically what I try to do. With the kids that I served. Yeah, just show them, hey, like, I did everything that you guys are trying to do, and I can tell you what you should be looking out for.
Yeah. So those um, those kids, did you like show them your highlight reel and be like, yeah, well, could you do this?
Yeah.
Like,
So
have you
I didn't even have to show.
have you started
I didn't even have
showing your kids that? Is a better question, I
I
guess.
did. I showed him. I showed my son my high school one, but obviously he has no idea, and it looks
Yeah.
like ancient footage. It looks like ancient footage. So I'll show him later. But no, the kids that I served, because I ran a boys group as well.
Yep.
So we were doing a whole bunch of things, but they were like, they didn't believe me until they like went home and searched it or whatever, and then found me, and then it was like, okay. So then that's kind of how our bond grew, because and I think everyone, and you probably know this as well, but it's like when you're navigating certain things, it's really hard to listen to someone who's never been there before trying to give you advice, right? Um, so my past, my background, everything made me credible, and it was easier for me to get them to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
But
and I'm
yeah,
sure after
they
they
all
saw
lost
that,
it.
they respected it a little, your stance a little bit more, because like, yeah, I am that dude. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
just one of these old heads out here. Like, well, back in my day in high school, I could,
yeah. No, I mean they still called me trash because they was like, all you do is dunk, and I'm like, that's not, but that's just what's gonna make you look at the video. But yes, and I was like, I don't care. The ball went into the rim, so whatever.
it's like, once you break those records, you can call me trash. How about that?
Oh yeah, no, I told him. I told every single one of them. I was like, if you break my record, like I'll give you $1,000.
There you go. So
Yeah.
for both of your um, announcement pictures for both your kids, you took some iconic photos. I think one was the practice field at UW, and the other was in front of the Capitol.
Hmm.
Two-part question: if you have a third, how do you top those? Where's the next spot going to be? Or is there not a third? There's no way we're having a third.
No, no, we're done. So
Tapped out
that's
at two.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, we got a boy and a girl. We got a perfect family. But yeah, no, those came about. And, she's fine with me talking about it. But we had two miscarriages
Oh, okay.
prior
Sorry to
to
hear
our
that.
son. Oh yeah, and she's just been an absolute like amazing woman. So that was really special. So then we were thinking about what we wanted to do, how do we want to do it. I was like, once it was finalized, well, not finalized, that's a terrible word. Once we knew that my son was coming, then we wanted to make it. I just wanted to do everything I could to make those moments special. So I was like, oh, let's just see if we can go to Camp Randall. And then someone I still knew, Pete, thank God he was there at the time. He let me into the practice facility, and then we took pictures there. Then yeah, we went to the Capitol and took some more pictures there. And then yeah, so that was really iconic. And then when we had our daughter, God, I don't remember those. But then we were like, okay, we're having a daughter. Um, Kind of the same thing. We wanted to make it super special. So yeah, that was like my contribution of, hey, like we did it, like you're amazing. Here's what I can offer you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Hmm.
Um, you talked a little bit about, well, I guess we were just talking about the field in the practice field. Are you pretty excited, or have you, I guess, taken either one of your kids to Camp Randall for a game?
I have not.
Maybe a
I
little
have
too
not.
chaotic that young.
Yeah, yeah, and just I mean, when I go down there, it's a overstimulation, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to bring maybe my son because he's a little bit older, or unless I knew someone that had like a box seat or whatever where it wasn't as chaotic.
Sure.
Um, that's probably the only thing I would do. We did go to a basketball game though,
Okay.
but football's a lot.
Yeah.
uh, it's a lot. I don't know how parents, and kudos to parents that do it, but
It's
yeah,
not
I'll
really a
probably
kid
go.
friendly atmosphere. We'll just put it that
It's not.
way.
It's not. And it doesn't really matter where you go. It's just not.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'll probably wait a couple more years before he goes, or before, and then my daughter will go too.
Yeah. Yeah. The party house is right in front of the gates. Don't really help, but
No, and then my kids have red hair, so then that's a whole separate then I'm worried about people touching his hair. Oh my god, where did he get his hair from? And I'm like, like my wife's Irish, black and Irish babies usually make red hair. It's just a thing. Yes, that's Blake Griffin. Yes.
I've heard it all. Don't
Yeah,
touch my kids.
yeah, yeah, right, yeah.
So, um, as I pointed out in the beginning of the episode here, this is kind of a brand new venture for me. And it all kind of stems from wanting to be able to set an example for my son, Maverick. I think your kid's name is Maverick too, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
coincidence. I swear I didn't copy you.
No,
But
side note, I picked Maverick because I never heard a kid named Maverick.
yeah, Maverick
And then
wasn't even on our list, and we were just like, kind of looks like a Maverick. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm
and then
sure
we
you
met
get a
like
lot. I'm sure you get it a lot too, where people are like, "Oh, big Top Gun fan, huh?" It's like, nope.
never seen
But so anyway, I basically started to want to set an example for my son and showing him I wasn't afraid to kind of follow my passions, um, and push forward even though you might be uncomfortable with something. Um, Likewise, you have just started your own business, the Solar Alchemist, uh, which for those of you watching on YouTube, we'll put a link to his page in the description. But tell us a little bit about your new business and kind of what gave you the courage to just go for it.
Yeah, so Solar Alchemist, company I just created, God, it feels like a year ago, but it was only like 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Um, we clean solar panels. So we got solar. So I drive an EV right now, and so we got solar panels, obviously to offset the cost. I remember during the conversation and kind of the finalizing of everything, I was asking, like how efficient are these things, and like my number one question is like, how do we clean them? And they're like, oh, don't worry, the rain will clean them. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we got them got them installed last February, and then obviously last summer was like one of the driest summers. Well, I don't know, maybe not Wisconsin, but Madison's had in like 10 or 15 years, something like that. Uh, and so we just weren't producing the same amount of energy that we were at the beginning. So one day, out of curiosity, got my water hose, sprayed like I don't know 7 or 8 panels, and it cleaned it. Cleaned it or whatever, and then they were more efficient. So now I was like, oh, we got to actually like clean these things. Uh, and so that's kind of like where my idea and where my passion came from. Now, side note, I never climbed a ladder.
Yeah, dude, I'm scared of
Never.
heights, so you got me
Yeah,
there.
yeah, no, me too. So, like, I never climbed a ladder, never got on a roof until like 2.5 weeks ago. But now that I'm kind of into it now, it's perfectly, now it's better. But yeah, I mean, that's where my inspiration came from. I think about it a lot, like, when you have glasses or when even like your windshield, right? Like when it's dirty, like what do you do? What do? You use windshield wiper fluid and then you use the windshield wiper to clean it. And that's the same thing. You do that because you want to be able to see. And that's a lot. with solar panels. You're not getting the right efficiency because you have a sheet of dust, pollen, bird poop. I just cleaned one person's solar panels the other day, and they had a thick layer of just dirt on it. So I know they weren't producing what they were supposed to.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to contact you for a quote or to book a cleaning, do they just reach out to you on the Facebook page? DM you on the
Yeah,
Facebook page?
Facebook. Yep, Facebook page. There is a link as well, or not a link, I guess a questionnaire on the website as well, where you put in your information, want to know about it. I'll get an email and then I'll reach back out to you. I'll probably just end up driving to your house. And then, I kind of look at your house. I mean, right now I'm running a special just because it's such a niche thing right now that people really don't know that they need it, even though you do.
Sure.
So I have a special running right now where it's really no hassle to you. It's like $100 in exchange for, your honest opinion. So just until I get more things established, and then, I can kind of take off from there.
Sure. So last two questions. Thank you again for being on the first ever podcast here. I know it took us a couple days of text to find the time between your kids and my kids. So yeah. So first question, if your kids somehow find this years down the road at say 18, 19, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh man. I think for even both of my kids, I would just be like, stay true to you, right? In a time where I felt like, there's so many influences right now. You know what I mean? Like, social media is kind of crazy right now, and even I'm thinking back now to when I chose to play football over basketball. And I was like, deep down, I was like, I know I'll be fine in basketball, but money, 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 money. And it's like, now it'll never go away, but it's always a what if, right? It's like, no, if your passion is whatever your passion is, don't let anyone steer you away from that. So yeah, stay true to you.
It's great advice. And I got to tie it back to the Badgers. Predictions for the Badgers' upcoming season this year. Honest opinion.
I don't think they're going to be 500 this year. I just don't.
I think it's going to be another down year too.
And I'm waiting to hear. God, what did he say? God, what's his name? Braden Allen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He said he was going to say something. He was going to say something about Fickle and then why he left early. He tweeted about it.
Okay.
And I'm waiting to hear that because I think I know what it is. I'm almost positive I know what it is, but I want to hear him say it. Whether he actually says it or not is I guess remain to be seen. But I just don't think they have the pieces, and I think they're in shambles right now.
Yeah, because they don't have an identity.
No, and I think that as much as I think, and this is what I tell people all the time, I'm like, they're like, oh, he's gonna come in and change the culture. I'm like, that culture is there's no way you're gonna change the culture.
Right.
And so I think he realized that, year two, he realized that, okay, he has to go back to what the culture is and try to enhance it. But I just don't see the pieces. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they do well. But I mean, just looking at it right now, I don't see anything to get excited for.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement, but I hope we are wrong.
Yeah.
But all right, Marquis, It's been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the first ever episode here. Yeah, go to Marquise's page, like it, request a cleaning, get your dirty solar panels cleaned.
Yeah. Come.
All right.
Yep. Let me
Thanks,
know.
Marquise.
Yep. Thank you.